Let's be honest. Some of y'all out here working hard, but when you sit down with your calculator, the math ain't mathing. Your revenue looking cute, but your profit, she's missing in action. And listen, part of why the math ain't mathing is because we don't even know our math. Studies show businesses that track their numbers are up to 60% more likely to stay profitable. But almost half of all small business owners don't even look at their books regularly. You can't pray for overflow if you don't even know what's leaking. So, if you're tired of working hard and still coming up short, it's time to sit down, know your numbers, and make your math start mathing. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Entrepreneur Wisdom Wednesday, where faith meets business and we keep it all the way real about this wild journey called entrepreneurship. Now, listen, today's episode might sting just a little bit, but it's all love, I promise. Because today we're talking about when the math ain't mathing in your business. You know what I mean. When the effort, the energy, the hours, and the outcome just ain't lining up. When you're doing all the right things, but the results are still given, nah. Maybe the sales don't reflect your hustle. Maybe the revenue looks good, but the profit says, blink twice if you're okay. Or maybe you're growing followers, but not customers. Whatever it is, something ain't adding up. And we're going to talk about why that happens, how to fix it, and most importantly, how to stop letting numbers define your worth as an entrepreneur. Now, let me keep it real with y'all. There was a season early in my business where I thought growth just meant busyness. I was booked and busy, right? At least that's what we like to say and think it's cute, but it's really not. Orders were flying in. I had collaborations happening. My phone dinging every 5 minutes. Shoot, I was out here moving like Beyonce run the world. Couldn't tell me nothing. But when I sat down and looked at the numbers, the math was not mathing. I had sales, but no margin. I had revenue, but no rest. I had customers, but no clarity. One month, I made what looked like the biggest revenue yet, but by the time I subtracted supplies, shipping, other fees, giveaways, packaging, marketing, and sleep deprivation, I realized I'd basically been paying to work. So that sounds like the math ain't mathing. That was, though, my wake-up call that motion isn't the same as multiplication. Being booked and busy doesn't equate to growth. And some of us need to stop celebrating being busy and start focusing on being balanced. So let's talk about, why does the math stop mathing? It's not always about money. Sometimes it's about your mindset, or it might be about the management in your business, or there may be, quite frankly, just some misalignment. When we get so caught up in doing what looks good, we forget to check what's actually working. So let's talk about the real reasons your numbers don't add up and how to fix them before they break you. And listen, part of why the math ain't mathing is because some of us don't even know our math. I'm just going to keep it 100, right? Here's the truth, though. According to multiple small business studies, companies that track their financial metrics consistently are up to 60% more likely to stay profitable long term. Yet over 45% of small business owners admit that they don't regularly review their numbers. Not the revenue, not the margins, and not even their expenses. That means almost half of entrepreneurs are out here making emotional decisions with no data. You can't manage what you can't measure. And if you don't understand at least what your cost is in supplies or your expenses, or maybe operational overhead, if you have brick and mortar, or you have employees, or you have other things that are contributing to your operational experience, if you don't even understand your cost, I don't understand how you plan to be profitable. If you don't understand your margins and you don't understand your break even point, you can't make smarter moves. You're just making busier ones. You start to see patterns and not panic when you start to understand your numbers. You know when to pivot and when to pause and when to push. So that's why I tell people all the time, it's not faith without work is dead. It's faith without spreadsheets is dead. Quite frankly, no pun intended, God, we know we need to put in the work for sure. But because praying for increase without managing what you already have, that's like asking God for more bags when you haven't even zipped up the ones you got. How you gonna hold on to the bags he already gave you and take on more if the money falling out the bag all over the street? It's like the armored car truck riding down the road and the doors fly open and all the money flies out. Now, some of y'all going to jail if you go pick up that money, so don't do that. That's a different podcast. I'm gonna come back to the subject. Anyways, you're tracking followers instead of conversions, right? You're tracking claps instead of clients. You're looking for attention instead of alignment. We love the validation, y'all. We love the likes, the shares, and the comments. And I'm not going to lie. I like to get the likes, the shares, and the comments too. But baby, those likes don't pay invoices. If you want the math to start mathing, start tracking the numbers that tell the truth. The things you need to track are your profit margins. You got to track your customer retention. You got to track your efficiency in your processes. And most importantly, you have to track your peace of mind. Because whether you realize it or not, peace is a metric too. Now, let's be honest. Some of us are running 5 mini businesses under one roof, printing, designing, coaching, selling, vending, teaching, all while trying to be a full-time parent, partner, and peacekeeper. And then we wonder why nothing's scaling. Well, the truth is you can't multiply what's divided. So if your time is divided amongst those 5 things and nothing is solidified in terms of how it's working, let's go back to last week's chat around prioritize, systemize, and delegate. If you haven't solidified that model or framework for one of those businesses, then how are you going to do it for 5? Focus doesn't limit you, it frees you. When you narrow your effort, you're going to increase your impact. So sometimes that means you got to shut down good ideas so that you protect the great ones. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back because that went over somebody's head. Sometimes you got to shut down the good ideas to protect the great ones. You can't just count revenue and skip the receipts. Sorry if you didn't know, but it doesn't work that way. Every dollar earned has a cost. That cost is either your time, that cost is either your energy, that cost is either labor, that cost is either peace, or that cost may even be some type of sacrifice. And some of us are hitting our goals, but we're losing ourselves in the process. And that's when you need to realize that the math still ain't mathing. Because quite frankly, success without sanity is bankruptcy of the soul. That's why God calls us to steward and not just strive. Now, let me flip this for my faith-based entrepreneurs like myself. And sometimes the math doesn't math because God is trying to teach you to trust him with a different equation. I know you're sitting over there like, God, I did A plus B, so where's my C? And he's like, baby, I'm working on algebra, not addition. Isaiah 55:8 says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. So sometimes when the math ain't mathing, it's not that you're failing, it's that God's multiplying something you can't see yet. But that doesn't mean that you need to stop and not knowing your numbers and not pause to know your numbers, because knowing your numbers is going to set you up for whatever God is trying to multiply. Knowing your numbers is going to help you understand where you may be falling short at, so that you can, one, pray to God the right way, and then two, you can know where you may need to pause at and wait on his guidance. Or you may learn that you're moving in the wrong direction and it's not what he told you to do, because you're not making no profit from that. Yeah, I'm going to move on, because somebody over there saying, oh my gosh, she talking to me, and I don't know if I'm really ready to hear it. So let me encourage somebody real quick. Don't let temporary subtraction make you question permanent purpose. Do realize every slow month, every closed door, every failed launch, it's all a part of a divine counting. God doesn't waste effort. He just reallocates it. But you have to be listening. So discipline plus obedience will equal compound favor. But that's only if you're listening and knowing your numbers so that you can adjust. But do remember, even when the math ain't mathing, the mission is still missioning. So here's my challenge for you this week. I want you to sit down with your numbers. I'm not talking just your financials, but I also want you to sit down with your emotional and spiritual balance sheet, because your mental insanity matters too, along with those numbers. And if your numbers aren't right, I guarantee you your mental and your sanity is out of whack too, okay? So when you sit down with these balance sheets, I want you to ask yourself 3 simple questions. The first one is, what's producing fruit and what's just producing noise? The second question is, where am I busy but not effective? And the last question you're going to ask yourself is, what looks profitable but feels very draining? And after you've asked those 3 questions and answered them, don't just ask them to yourself, y'all, and be like, oh, she said, ask myself what looks profitable and feels draining. Oh, I'm going to move on. No, ask and answer them, okay? And once you've found the answers, I want you to pray this simple prayer. And you're going to say, Lord, help me to stop chasing what looks right and focus on what adds up to your will. All right, y'all. That's my today's Entrepreneur Wisdom Wednesday. Faith for the journey, wisdom for the work. I'm Tanya, and I'll see you next week. But before I go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode so we can keep encouraging more entrepreneurs on this journey. Also, be sure to follow us on YouTube at thefactory_10 so you never miss these midweek reminders. And oh, I almost forgot. Before I go, y'all see this shirt? Let me move my mic out the way. That's right. It's the shirt of the week. The math ain't mathin'. Consider it your friendly reminder. Oh, my mic's acting up, y'all. It's falling apart on me. All right, there we go. But consider this shirt your friendly reminder to take action on your numbers and know what's really adding up in your business. You can grab yours for just $15.99 on our website. Links down below in the description. And wear it as a conversation starter and a statement, quite frankly, that you're building smarter, not just busier. Remember, numbers tell a story, but they don't have to define your purpose. When the math ain't mathing, trust the one who never miscalculates. Let's press, y'all. Until next week, I'm out. Bye.